You got it.
Good evening. You're watching Albania's Evening News. I'm Peter Zimbicki, and these are the headlines for Tuesday, December 21st, 2010. The government is seeking opposition support for a change to Albania's penal code. The changes are designed to strengthen law against terrorism and money laundering. Internet safety is the focus of a meeting today where the Albanian Minister of Innovations called on the private sector and internet service providers to promote internet safety. The 49th Albanian Radio and Television Song Festival is just 2 days away. We'll update you on those latest developments in a moment. We'll have those stories in just a moment, but we begin tonight with news surrounding the selection of members for Albania's highest courts.
Democratic Party Deputy Victor Gumi is calling on Albanian President Bamir Tobi to ensure transparency in the selection of candidates for Albania's Constitutional Court and High Court. Gumi also asked the president to motivate the appointment decree and seek information from various institutions in order to better understand the performance of those nominated as members of those courts. Today, Gumi made those calls as he argued before the Constitutional Court on a request from a group of Democratic lawmakers seeking an interpretation of the Constitution's articles dealing with the composition and structure of both the Constitutional Court and the High Court. Gumi says Albania's constitution calls for 1/3 of the seats on the Constitutional Court to be up for candidates every 3 years. If that's the case, the term of 6 members of the court will end in just a few months. While that constitutional question is being debated, Parliament has suspended the voting process on the presidential nominees, awaiting the decision of the Constitutional Court before moving forward.
A draft law revising Albania's penal code is making its way through the parliament, but still needs votes from the opposition in order to become law.
The proposed law, which focuses on terrorism and money laundering, is being proposed by the Justice Minister and is based on recommendations from the United Nations Convention. Those recommendations call for the criminalization of financing terrorism as well as using penal actions for money laundering. The law does not have direct financial implications for Albania, but calls for strong sanctions for those guilty of those activities. While the draft law has support of the majority, it's short of the 84 votes needed for approval. That means some opposition MPs would need to vote for the draft, and that seems unlikely. The opposition says it's against any changes to Albania's penal code and will likely not participate in any plenary sessions involving the proposed changes. The opposition's stance goes beyond just the penal code measure, with a number of other drafts also needing support from opposition MPs for approval. Those measures include judicial system reform and the law on the administrative courts.
Strengthening the rule of law in Albania will take legal changes to the justice system.
Reforms in the justice system must continue in order to strengthen the state of law. This was declared by the Justice Ministry during the presentation ceremony for a 5-year USAID project for strengthening the justice system in Albania. Transparency and an efficient court system are vital in improving law, according to the minister. Deputy head of the High Justice Council, Kreshnik Spahui, addressed the parliament with an appeal to look carefully at new legislation that may directly impact the justice system. The U.S. will strongly support initiatives for strengthening the state of law in Albania, USAID Director Joseph Williams said.
The situation in the flooded areas of Sub-Skodra is under control despite a new round of heavy rainfall.
Rose 20 centimeters today in the Drin and Buna River and Lake of Skodra areas, threatening Dajak, Ana El Malet, and the Guri IZ communities. Kur and Gajadar River water levels also rose in the flooded areas, but a good management of the dams is helping preserve safety in the area. National roads have reopened except the Tusha Pashtim Valaji Road. Military forces continue to hand out food for human and stock victims of the flooding. Hundreds of food packages, tons of animal food, piles of blankets, and cleaning supplies have been delivered to the inhabitants of the area. A weapons factory in Elbasan also donated 500,000 lek for flooding victims in Skodra.
Government and business must both play a role to ensure internet safety.
Safety measures must be in place to assure that all users, especially young people, are protected on the internet. Experts from the National Authority of Electronic Certification and the National Agency of Information Society met today to discuss the key players and their roles. Minister of Inventions Cenk Polos said the government plays a key role in promoting internet safety, but the private sector and internet providers should also play their roles. He argued that memorandums are necessary in regulating the relationship between the public and private sectors. New models and new services of business bring new risks of privacy and security for all Albanians online, especially the young, a group that's always an early adopter of new technologies. While the new services increase communication, critics argue that these cause increased concern for those who want to keep their information private. New laws must provide maximum safety measures for personal information, said Minister Polo. New legislation on cybercrime has already been adopted into Albanian law. A 2008 law commissioned a national office mandating protection of all personal information. Their initiatives are also working to create a safe internet for schools, businesses, and the banking system.
Finding a new job for 11,000 unemployed Albanians is a challenge for the seeker and for the employment offices. While some were able to find employment themselves, Director of National Employment Services Thomas Miko said the vast majority of job seekers found a new job through the National Job Stimulus Program.
Finding a new job for the 11,444 unemployed people in the country is a challenge for the seeker and for the employment offices. While some were able to find employment themselves, Director of National Employment Services Thomas Mika said the vast majority of job seekers found a new job through the National Job Stimulus Programs. Employment offices say that 77,500 job seekers benefited from their services in 2010. Of those, 1 in 7 found employment, 3,600 benefited from training courses. More than 1,700 of the unemployed found work through a job stimulus program. 800 found their own work or started their own businesses. The university-educated folks found work as economists, teachers, engineers. Those with a high school diploma found work as technicians, construction workers, mechanics, waiters, and other service industry-related jobs. To help find good employment, courses offered education for other service workers, including tailors, electricians, maintenance workers. Besides the state-run programs, foreign donors funded a series of employment training and packages. Those were made available to job seekers already registered at the national employment offices.
A controversial report accuses Kosovo's Prime Minister Hashim Thaçi of heading a mafia-style crime ring in the late 1990s that engaged in assassinations, beatings, organ trafficking, and other crimes.
A Council of Europe draft report released Thursday blames Prime Minister of Kosovo Hashim Thaçi of leading a mafia-style crime ring in the early 1900s. The Council of Europe draft report released on Thursday was denounced by the Kosovo government as baseless and defamatory, who threatened legal and political action in response. The report by Dick Marty of the Council's Parliamentary Assembly Committee on Legal Affairs and Human Rights also accused Western powers of complicity in ignoring crimes dating back to the late 1990s. The report was released a day after elections results showed Thaçi's party won Sunday's first post-independence election. In part, the report reads that Thaçi and other Derica group members are consistently named as key players in intelligence reports accusing Kosovo of mafia-like structures of organized crime. We found that the Derica group had its chief, or to use the terminology of organized crime networks, its boss, the renowned political operator and perhaps most internationally recognized personality of the KLA, Hashim Thaçi, reads the report. The Kosovo Liberation Army fought a guerrilla war between 1998 and 99 against Serbia, in which NATO eventually intervened militarily. That conflict led to Belgrade losing control of territory it sees as the birthplace of Orthodox Christianity. In the report, Thaci's inner circle are accused of secretly taking captives across the border into Albania after the war, including Serbs. The report claims that the captives were murders and kidneys sold on the black market, according to the UK Guardian newspaper. Other confidential reports over more than a decade accuse Thaci and others in his group of violent control over heroin and other drug trafficking. Kosovo officials deny charges and are threatening legal action. The government of Kosovo and Prime Minister Hashim Thaci will undertake all necessary steps and actions to dismiss the slanders of Dick Marty, including legal and political means. The report read, "It is clear that somebody wants to hurt Prime Minister Thaci despite his recent election." Even Thaci's political opponents in the country denounced the report as a blow against the struggle for independence in Kosovo, saying that Albanians in Kosovo fought for freedom and not to profit from drug rings. Social Democrat leader Agim Seku, a KLA commander during the war, and a former Kosovo prime minister, blamed Belgrade for the accusations. "Every accusation against the KLA comes from Serbia or its helpers," he told Reuters. "It's just an attempt to blacken our war and our victory." The report came from the Council of Europe, human rights watchdog based in Strasbourg, which was created in 1949 to promote democracy and the rule of law.
Rehearsals have started in the Congress Hall for participants of the 49th Albanian Radio and Television Song Festival as the day draws closer to the first night. The string orchestra, which will accompany the songs, will be directed by 3 well-known conductors, as well as the newly graduated Ingrid Rucci.
The Great Hall in the Congress Palace is now at the disposal of the artists taking part in the 49th Albanian Radio and Television Song Festival. After intensive rehearsals in the studio of the Radio Tirana Orchestra, the singers are now continuing their rehearsals on stage. Up to now, we have talked about the artists, the singers, the poets, and the young composers, which this year have found a welcome from Albanian Radio and Television to become participants in this big musical event. A new name this year in the lineup is the newly graduated Ingrid Rucci. She will be conducting the Tirana Radio Orchestra during the festival, next to the well-known names of Jetmir Barbarushi, Oleg Arapi, and Gridi Kraja. One of the previous winners of the Song Festival is the singer Kajsi Tola. After winning, she went on to present her song at the Eurovision Song Contest in Moscow. And this year, she will be entering the Albanian Radio and Television Song Festival once more with a song composed by Kristi Pope. On the second night of the festival, in the VIP section, the sixth in line, according to lots drawn a few days ago, will be the singer Goldi Halili. She comes with a composition which is imprinted by the hand of Batrin Krajka.
That is our report for this Tuesday. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back again tomorrow night at 6:30 with another edition of Albania's English News. Stay classy, Tirana.
Stay classy.
That is so tacky, Peter.
Too short.
What?
Good night, too short.